actually kind of easy. Anytime you're looking for a good quote, all you have to do is Google Winston Churchill or Benjamin Franklin. You can find just about anything you want. But as we have a chance to reflect back on the past 40 years, I think this quote applies tonight more than ever. We look at this time when we're trying to transform our healthcare system with new models of care like the patient-centered medical home and accountable care organization, develop new models and innovations in residency training, and while simultaneously fighting a war, all this in the wake of sweeping national healthcare legislation. Now this description fits 2010, but I'm also talking about 1969 when family medicine was founded. If you think about it, there were lots of new models of care, the biopsychosocial model of care. Now we have the patient-centered medical home. We had educational innovations and pioneers like Ed, which resulted in the birth of family medicine then. And now there's talk about increased community training and other changes to residency training now. We have now the recent healthcare legislation that the Congressman talked about. And in 1970, it had only been a few years since another national health program was passed, which also was decried as socialism by its opponents. It was called Medicare. And all this while the Vietnam War was still going on. So we may well have lessons to learn about how we can navigate these changes today. And we're lucky enough tonight to hear a master teacher and family medicine leader who was a leader in 1970 and still is today. So he's going to solve everything for us tonight. As I said earlier, there are no such things as cliches when you're describing Ed Shahady's place in the history of family medicine and family medicine education. Words like role model, living legend, giant are not trite phrases but accurate descriptors. As Bill Smucker said, just talk about what he hasn't done. See, at lunchtime he didn't have a congressional proclamation and now he has one, so you never know what he's going to do. So for those of us that were just coming in tonight, Ed has a long list of distinguished accomplishments that I touched on a bit today, but I wanted to point out that, as we go through looking at everything we're doing today, obviously we had a role model. Ed did it first, and that comes down to even the community and international service. When I look back over Ed's CV, he served in the U.S. Navy during the Vietnam War, attached to the Marine Corps, from 1965 to 1967, and I found an interesting article from the West Virginia Alumni Magazine that detailed that in his spare time, he and Dr. Jim Wilkerson, who was a teacher for many of us here in urology during residency, and another West Virginia guy, in their spare time from caring for combat wounded Marines, they founded a children's hospital, the Ho Kan Children's Hospital, to care for children who had no medical care for miles around. That's in their spare time as combat physicians. He was awarded the U.S. Navy Commendation Medal with Combat V for Valor, Vietnam Service Medal, and Republic of Vietnam Social Service Medal, first and second class. He's had multiple additional awards and honors, including the State of Florida Surgeon General Health Innovation Prevention and Management Award, the Art of Medicine Lifetime Achievement Award from the Florida Academy, as I said, Distinguished Alumnus Award from both West Virginia University School of Medicine and Wheeling Jesuit University, and the Thomas W. Johnson Award for Outstanding Contribution to Family Practice Education from the American Academy of Family Physicians. Although he was named one of the outstanding people on the Cambridge list, one of the outstanding people in the 21st century, Ed Shahady would have been an outstanding person in any century. We're just lucky that he happens to live in ours. So to call Ed Shahady one of the forefathers of family medicine is not hyperbole, it's history. So y'all welcome back to the podium, the forefather of us all, Dr. Ed Shahady.
Well, thank you, John. I certainly am humbled and thankful. I've just been around a long time, but they didn't have anybody else to give all those awards to, so they had to give that somebody. This has been a real special day. To listen to all your achievements, to feel the growth, to see what you've done. Dick, fantastic. You guys have done so much, so much. I think the dream was there, but to just see it develop, just see what you all have done as a faculty, to see the graduates to see the energy in this room. And that lady's got a bundle of energy. Got her watching. But that is really so gratifying. So gratifying to see some of my dear old friends, Dr. McFadden. I bet you it's been since you graduated. And this, I could see that's so good to see you. And another one of our former first residents, Don Braden, down there with you. You're going to say hello to him for me, and I appreciate that. It was so great to see Dave Humph. And Denny Robinson. Denny and I keep in touch. He's always sending me emails and giving me grief. I think we're on Facebook together. Everybody was surprised to, but since he started emailing me, I start getting all these pretty girls that are emailing me. So just all of you, thank you. Jay, just so good to be back with you again. Everybody that, when we first started on this. It's just a great feeling. So Jim Grow, he and I really were GP residents together. In fact, Dave, Jim, and Denny, I was a GP resident when you guys were GP residents, right? So sort of we really go for that. Now remember, I'm from the class of 1968. What did you say?
You're older.
I'm older. Yeah, I get older. Thank God Mozi was here today. He's older than us. He said he was 74 and I'm 72. So just great to be here and be with you guys and just renew friendships. And I can't forget my good friend Lois Maya over there next to Vern Hirschberger. Lois was just such a great teacher, and she would put me in place. She really did. Look at her smile. She loved that. And she hated to hear me talk when we'd have a faculty meeting because we always would be, I'd be talking, well, you got to know what the history is. She told me one day, I'm sick and tired of hearing the history. Let's get on with the meeting. And you watch her for about 15 or 20 minutes, she's going to point at the clock too. So that's good. That's good. It's tough to follow such great memories and bringing up what you guys have brought up. But I'm going to try not to make it too long. And I'm reminded of one thing I just love that I've heard. It's facts tell, stories sell. So I'm going to do a little bit of both tonight. Maybe give you some facts, and then just put some stories in there. Because I think stories are what bring meaning. Because all our lives are about stories, our patient stories, our family stories, what have you. And I'm going to, I hope not bore you, but tell you things as I've seen through my eyes for the past 72 years. I feel very grateful that I'm still able to stand. I'm on this side of the earth, and I think this thing's still working pretty good. Jay gave me my Aricept today. Of that 46 years I've been a physician, 42 years as an educator. So I got to start I think, a physician educator 2 years before I became director. And it was the great thing about Akron City is that I was allowed to teach, as I got out of my residency. And you have to teach all kinds of residents. And the great thing about Akron, Ohio, the first president of the American Academy of General Practice came from Akron, Ohio. And his son was an orthopedist, last name Davis. I don't know if the orthopedist Dr. Davis is still living. He's probably not. But that was the great history. GPs were really respected here, and I think that still continues as FPs. And I was around when that switch was made. In fact, I went to my first AAFP meeting in 1970, and the Congress of Delegates were really arguing, we don't want to be called family physicians, we're GPs. And that really had a hard time changing that. That was a real political issue. A lot of political issues in the 70s, but that was a tough one. I've all forgotten now because we are family physicians. We teach family medicine. That's it. So I think I've been awful lucky, and I've been able to experience, I think, a lot of challenges. I think the challenge of Vietnam, and the challenge of Vietnam was really something. To go over there, I I got a letter in April of my internship year inviting me to become either get drafted, that's what it was like back then, or volunteer as an officer. And Jim Wilkerson, God bless him, he said, I know this deal. He says, because he was going too. And there were 5 of us that went from my intern class. You know, well, we were going to go in July, we had to go. And he said, well, we'll volunteer for the Navy, and you have 2 choices. You either go to Camp Lejeune or you go to California. So I put California as my first choice. So you know what that was the gateway to. I got to stay for 6 weeks. You know, we just had our 5th child. Our 5th child, little baby, went across the country, backseat of our new Rambler station wagon. And my poor wife, after 5 or 6 weeks, boom, I was going to Vietnam. But you know what? Really held me in good stead? My Akron City Hospital internship. I was more able to take care of what I saw. The blood and guts issues, the trauma. There were a lot of Harvard educated. They'd been 1 year at Harvard. They didn't know what was going on. They knew the pathophysiology. They could give me a lecture about what was going on with the shock. I said, well, BS, the lecture, what the hell do you do about it? I learned my education here, I'll never forget it. The giants that taught me, you may not even know some of them, you know, that taught me. Dr. Pollock was one of them. And I just remember his kindness in the ER telling me one time, because I was all upset, this poor lady came in and she was in shock and she died within 30 or 40 minutes. And it finally, what it was, she had a ruptured aortic aneurysm. Probably not much you could do about it. But you know, you're an intern and you don't like to see that happen. And he says, Ed, come here and sit down and talk to you. Because I was crying. I thought I did something wrong. And he took care of me. That's why when Jim Pollock died, I was so impressed. And thanks for telling me about that. And I sent the donation, and his son wrote me back. His son wrote me back a nice letter. You know, about a lot of giants, surgeons, Dr. Tom Kelly, Dr. Bill Locker. I think Dr. Locker is still living too. And just great people that I knew, and helped me so much to develop. And you know, other challenges, and I always, you know, bring this up, and Jay brought it up the last time I was here, you know, I had trouble with hospital administrators.